So after being told that my partner and I only had a 4% chance of naturally conceiving, I remember I had feelings that I couldn't even describe or put into words. But little did I know that that was the beginning of actively processing and learning how to navigate this world of TTC and infertility. I think people have this misconception that because I have my doctorate degree in clinical psychology that I should be able to navigate really difficult feelings and really difficult circumstances. Actually, what my education and personal journey have taught me is how much I don't know and how much more I need to learn and how complex the human mind, body, and experiences are. And infertility was one of those things I did not learn about in grad school. So I began to ask myself, how do women experience this journey of infertility? I mean, there's so many women who've gone through multiple surgeries, multiple miscarriages. I mean, just loss in general, the poking and the prodding of your body and hormones and all this stuff. And I began to wonder, do they experience any PTSD? How extensive is their trauma? After doing some research and finding some online supportive communities to engage with, words started popping out. And the general theme that I found was that many couples were experiencing loneliness, anxiety, depression, lack of support, fear, guilt, shame, and yes, trauma and PTSD. I reached out to some of these communities and asked men and women if they would be willing to anonymously share their journey and their experiences of what it's been like for them to go through infertility and this journey of furthering their family. With their permission, I'm actually going to read you some of their stories. I honestly thought I wouldn't have any problems getting pregnant. I rushed the testing because I was over 30. I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure. I went into severe depression and started an IOP program shortly after that. I switched offices and started being seen by a fertility specialist. She completely changed my diagnosis to DOR. We did 2 rounds of IUI with Clomid and micro HCG. Neither was successful. We are moving on to IVF. My husband and I hadn't been trying for too long, maybe a year, but I was worried about my age and my clock. I'm an OB nurse, so I used my resources. I worked with one of my OBGYN friends and we started Clomid and then Letrozole. Initially, I felt that I would be pregnant in no time. Every month that went by was a month I got my period. I remember the last medicated cycle, I literally screamed out when my period started. It impacted my relationship with my husband. Instead of having sex for fun or connection, it was more of a chore. It actually has led to my husband having some erectile dysfunction issues. When we initially got checked and we found out that our initial issues were linked to sperm, I was supportive but silently resentful. It was all so surreal. I met a man who I knew that I was going to have babies with, and that hope was gone. When you initially receive a diagnosis, you can't help but think about the worst case scenario. We finally had hope with IVF. After our first egg retrieval, we had 3 embryos that were all genetically abnormal. All of the abnormalities were X-linked. So now I felt worthless. How can my body not do this one damn thing it was made to do? We now have completed 3 egg retrievals. We have 1 good M-baby girl on ice, and we are waiting to hear about this last retrieval. The major words that I can use to describe infertility is isolating and lonely. IVF isn't a fix-all. It's not like you go into doing it and you're guaranteed anything. I wish people understand the stress. I wish people wouldn't say, oh well, if you had transferred those embryos, it would have just resulted in a miscarriage. It saved you from that. That should make you feel better. Gee, thanks. I wish people understood the odds from my case when I try to explain it. Not just say, well, I know a person who knows another person, and it worked for them. I don't like the dismissive. Oh yeah, and the last thing that drives me insane is, well, just keep trying. I know people where it took them years, but it finally happened when they weren't expecting it. Right, again. I knew I would have to have fertility treatments due to my PCOS long before we ever started trying. My medicated cycles are torture because they never know if the meds are going to make me ovulate or not. I have done 13 medicated cycles and only ovulated 3 times with a result of 2 miscarriages, one of which was ectopic. The absolute unknown of if I will even ovulate or not is making me anxiety riddled. We didn't know we were going to need help until we tried for 6 months and didn't get pregnant. I knew something was wrong because I've been pregnant before and I see my OBGYN regularly. So we got my fiance tested and he was diagnosed with unexplained infertility. He did not express his feelings about it, but I think that's because he was raised to suppress his feelings. I, on the other hand, was a bit upset. I really wanted to have his children, but with IVF, we still have a chance. We also were both really interested in adoption and foster care because he grew up with his aunt, who was a foster mother, and I was adopted. So I think coming from these backgrounds really helped us be okay with raising children that may not be biologically ours. It took my husband and I 4 years to come to terms we needed help. Every month we tracked and did our research on how to track. Heartache after heartache and constantly being told to not think about it and it will happen wasn't helping. Plus, how can you not think about something you both want so badly? We finally got in and got tested. We were scared for it to be any of us. We found out, luckily, it's one minor thing from a football injury. It's still heartbreaking to not be able to do things on our own. But now that we are in the process of getting the help we need, we are both so excited and can't wait. We know we will still have heartache, but couldn't be happier knowing. It's such a science, and we never realized that. They don't teach this in high school. You're basically just told you have sex and you get pregnant. Even though we are still in the process of doing what we need to get where and what we want, it still makes us sad when our friends come out saying they are pregnant. I love this support group because it is a bunch of people literally going through the same things, and they are all so inspiring and a huge community of people who truly understand. Definitely felt anxiety and alone. I remember thinking you have sex without a condom, you get pregnant. I was shocked when it didn't work for us, and after tracking my cycles for a few months, I knew something was wrong. Trauma and PTSD are real and significant in the TTC community, and these individuals are so brave and so resilient, and they go through many heartaches that people may not fully understand. My hope is that in the next few videos, we can address how the process of fertility treatments and TTC itself can be emotionally and physically traumatic for so many. So we're going to pause here for today, and I will see you next time. Bye.